this is such a cool thing for me to experience, because I went through what you're going through now probably 30 years ago.
Yeah, baby. All right.
Kidding.
That's it.
Wow, it's live. We're live.
Wow. I'd like to thank our studio audience for showing up today. It's great to have. This platform's got some buttons you could press to do that stuff. So
I did not know that you were going to do that.
I know you did.
Very cool.
What do you think? Do you think I kind of look like a grandpa right now? I got like got my grandpa hat, got my...
You do.
I'm trying to feel like I could look a little more sophisticated.
Sophisticated or older?
Yeah.
Talk about David Bowie.
David Bowie.
So I am very, very interested to hear what you have to say about this, because I'm going to guess that you hated this record. This is Ziggy Stardust. I'm going to guess
Ziggy Stardust.
That you did not like it at all.
And the Spiders from Mars.
The Rise and Fall.
Can I ask why? Can I ask why you think I might
Sure. It's a vast record, right? It's not, there are hints of rock on it. There are a lot of different types of, musical styles. The lyrics are very important on this record. And what I mean by that is people tend to love David Bowie not simply for the music. They're very focused on his lyrics. And I know that you don't listen to lyrics a lot.
I was going to say, I'm not a lyric guy.
Yes, you're definitely not a lyric guy. And so, in thinking that, I was listening to the music and I was trying to listen to it almost through your ears. Like, I love this record. It's one of my favorite records. People have said this is one of the best albums of all time. Like, people actually say that. Not just rock, like one of the best records ever. And I tried to hear it through Alex Huard's ears, and it didn't sound very good.
So, David Bowie has never been on a list of people that I like to listen to,
okay, or
want to listen to.
Wow.
And I understand that there is a huge following behind this guy.
Right.
And there are songs like Labyrinth. He's in Labyrinth, the movie, and he's got some good tunes in there.
Mm-hmm.
Space Oddities. Great, that's what it is. But I've never been a big fan of his voice, and I was never a big fan of hearing his voice. I think especially from songs from the 70s, and in that I mean, like, I know Changes, and Changes is a good song, but I've never been like it never. I was more annoyed. I felt like it was more like nails on a chalkboard kind of a voice.
Whoa.
Yeah, said it.
Wow.
So going into this, that's what I was kind of worried about it. I was like, man, you know what? Like, am I going to be able to get through this album? And 5 years. So 5 years kicks it off. What a fantastic tune. Okay.
Oh.
So
wow.
So okay, 5 years. And so listen, here's something else. I'm kind of probably going to give this all away at the beginning here, because we'll get into talking, because there's so much to talk about with this album. I knew that this album was about the story and about the lyrics and about what he was writing about. So I brought up the lyrics I sat down, I put the album on, and I went through the songs, and I read the lyrics with every song as I went through it. Okay. And I tell you what, if I didn't do that, I probably wouldn't have liked this album. But this is one of the greatest albums of all time. I hate to like go opposite of what you said, but honestly, like, everything about this, then I started listening to melodies, and I started listening to the accompaniment and the composition
Yes.
and the way that everything was going and the way the choruses changed from the verses.
Yeah.
And I was like stopping myself from crying. I was like there are points in these songs where you're like, I don't know who I am right now. Like, you know, and I had a serious identity crisis because I never wanted to listen to Bowie, and I never wanted to, like, I didn't think I would ever like him. And I tell you again, like, if I just put this on randomly, I would have turned it off. But when you sit down and you pay attention to it, now these songs have a whole other meaning and whole other life to them that, like, I can't wait now to play this album. Yeah.
This is a massive revelation. Like,
Yeah,
I'm blown away a little bit. This is almost like a public service message that goes beyond David Bowie and rock and roll even. Like, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Kids, sit down, listen to music.
Yes.
You know what
Listen
I mean?
to this album. Like, this is crazy. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is such a great statement, because, like, it's absolutely right. And I've been saying this to people for so long. Close the door, you know, put the headphones on, whatever it is, like, focus on this. Listen to what's inside it, not just what's on top of it. There's so much good stuff in there if you really pay attention. And there's so much to discover. Good for you.
There
man.
is.
That's fucking great. I'm you just made my day with this record. And, you know, I think this is his fifth album. But he really hit his stride. You know, Hunky Dory came out before this, which I love. A lot of this material was written during the Hunky Dory sessions. He got back from his American promotional tour, I think in 71, sat down and wrote like 35 songs and then brought them into the studio. Hunky Dory was recorded in 71, I think, towards the end, and then this came out in 72. But he, with this record, brought an artistic drama to rock that nobody had seen before, and it really changed the face of everything. It really did.
I'm trying to think about, like, putting myself even in the mindset of him to say, like, let's do this. Let's do a completely conceptual album based on this random, you know, person and idea, and write these songs. And, you know, like he says, he created a completely plastic rock star out of this. And he said better than the Monkees, you know, could have made of themselves. And it's like you're right. You know, like it's wild what he did with this. And I can't even begin to think about how he thought of putting these songs together. Like, it's just like, that's how, to me, brilliant everything here is.
He truly is. This whole idea came from a number of, as they usually did with David Bowie, came from a number of different sources, and he drew from different sources. But people say that this was, I think it was a guy named Vince Taylor that he had met, who was an English singer, musician. And Vince Taylor had an interesting story. He had a mental breakdown because he actually did believe that he was a cross between a god and an alien. And that he was so consumed by that idea that he actually had a mental breakdown.
Wow.
And so David Bowie met him at some point and was fascinated by this, and came up with this kind of concept of, like, this alien rock star. You know, but then the idea came from, like, Ziggy came from a costume shop that he saw when he was on a train. He was trying to come up with a name, and he had Iggy Pop, but he couldn't use Iggy. He loved Iggy. Then he saw Ziggy, and he's like, oh, that's kind of a sign. I have to use Ziggy. And then, you know, Stardust he got from Hoagie Carmichael's song, Stardust. And he loved glitter, and he loved glam and all that stuff. So it just, you know, and we'll get into the songs later, but he drew from so many sources. And it's cool when you think about that as you listen to this record too, because you get so much more out of it as a result.
Totally. Well, let's go through the songs.
Yeah, let's go through the songs.
There's a lot to get into, I think.
Oh, yeah.
This. And now, look, I honestly, like, I've only been listening to this album for 3 days. Okay, so when I sat down and listened to it, like, really, like, went into it the first time, and now I've just been putting it on, like, nonstop. So
I can't believe it. Like
if I miss some things, or like I'm overshooting or not correct on stuff, like
yeah,
that's why. But yeah, let's get into it. 5 years.
Yeah.
So look, I guess the whole idea of this is that, like, again, it's a concept album, right? And so Ziggy Stardust is supposed to be like this alien that is going to comes to Earth to try and save Earth, because in this first song, 5 years, it's all about the Earth, understanding that it only has 5 years to live.
That's right.
And it's like all of these things that people are feeling and seeing and going through, all the skinny people, all the fat people, like stuffed inside this, like so much about this. And like, it just seems like, maybe it's also the time, right? It almost feels like it's almost felt like the end of the world for like a couple of years here, like it felt pretty like close to home.
Yes.
Like you think about the beginning of the pandemic when everything, like shelves were cleared, it's like things were gone, and you're like, oh my God, what is happening here? So maybe that connected a little bit too. But 5 years, the way it goes through that song and just gets to this build up of 5 years, like, oh my goodness, and what a song! Like
there's anguish at the end. You hear Bowie's voice, and he's so believable. It's like he really is anguished by this idea, and he really sells it. Like it's fantastic. And that's a great lead in.
And that kind of segues into Soul Love. Which that. Man, like it's kind of a little, it's a bit campy, I think. It's kind of like, kind of whatever. But it's a great follow up to such a traumatizing song. It's like just this nice, like, okay, we've hit you really hard, and now here's Soul Love, where it's just kind of like, all right, we're into love, and it's all good, man. And like, here's the different kinds of love, and love does not discriminate, and it's all good, though. I think it's really cool the way that some of these songs, fall into each other, and obviously part of the story that it's trying to tell of, Ziggy coming to Earth.
Yeah. It's funny because people call it a concept album, but Bowie had never, ever called it a concept album. And people who were involved in the recording of the record, Ken Scott, I think, produced this or engineered it, said that there were songs that fit if you want to call it a concept album, but there are songs that don't.
Because, I mean, like, even It Ain't Easy that was a song, I think, recorded during Hunky Dory.
It's a cover, so it doesn't really fit on the record. But all these songs were kind of recorded at the same time, and some of these were holdovers. Like, I think It Ain't Easy was supposed to be on Hunky Dory, and it just got held back. But Moon Age Daydream basically introduces the character of Ziggy Stardust. If you listen to the lyrics,
yes,
I'm an alligator, I'm a space invader, like all that stuff.
Yeah. I'm a mama, papa waiting for you.
Yeah, it's like I'm asexual. Right, like it's just like it's so brilliantly done in terms of like the lyrical imagery. Because as he's singing this, you're thinking like, what is he talking about? But then, as you think about it, like there's gay slang in there that people don't know. There's references to very kind of naughty things, right? When you really listen, and again, like really listen and kind of do the work, and you'll get so much out of this record.
Yeah, because it's basically essentially what he's seeing when he comes to Earth are these things, right? Like it's things that he's never seen before, but he's seeing.
He's describing himself in Moon Age Daydream. Yeah.
Then it gets into likely my favorite song on the album, Starman.
Yeah, oh yeah, one of my favorite Bowie tunes. It was written at the very last minute. So it wasn't supposed to be on the record. This is so cool. I love this stuff. It was not supposed to be on the record. RCA picked up. He was on another label, Bowie was. I can't remember what it was, but RCA picked up David Bowie as an artist. And one of the RCA executives heard the record, and Starman was not on the record. There was a song called Round and Round, which was a Chuck Berry cover, I think, called Round and Round. And again, I don't know why. But the executive said, I don't hear a single on this record, and I'm a little bit worried about that. You know, you're a new artist or stable, and like to hear a single, please, right? So Bowie goes back, writes Starman like that. And, you know, I mean, there's a little bit of like some more of the rainbow on there. You can hear it.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of other references. But
that's what I love about it.
It went to number 5. And he just kind of, like, he just tossed it off. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, and it was a huge single. Like, it's so amazing. And they took Round and Round off in favor of Starman at the very last minute. The album was supposed to be called, in fact, Round and Round. Right up until a couple of weeks out, they were going to call the album Round and Round.
That is crazy. You can't imagine this album without this song on it.
No. And
like this song is like almost the album. Like this almost is what the album is. Like, I don't know.
This was, when I first started getting into David Bowie, this was one of the songs that really kind of pulled me in because of the lyrics and the way that they were conveyed, you know, the delivery when he's talking to his friend on the phone, and it's like, you know, the way that you did when you were a little kid, like, hey, you know, don't tell your papa, like, but this is, you know, and they, like, you have a little secret, like, look up in the sky, you can see this, and there's this intimacy, right?
Yeah.
And even the way that he says, you know, hey, that's far out. You know, he's using American references. He's not saying things like telly, or, you know, he says TV. Right. And so he's really trying to appeal to American audiences, but like there's so much stuff to hear in this record, and he's such a fucking genius the way that he has arranged all of this for you as the listener.
Totally. Yeah. Let the children boogie. That's like,
well, just such a cool voice too, right? Like, you know,
it ends up being a cool voice. I still had to get used to it. Like, I'm still kind of impartial to it, but it couldn't be anything else. Like, it is, especially for me, for this album, like, it makes the character. It makes like so much more for these songs and the stories and just kind of like the identity behind, you know, what I think, what I got out of it anyways. And like slow, and I guess it was a slow building album. Like, I know the song would go to 5 and the album would blow up, but it took some time. It took a little bit of time for people to catch on to it. And I think it was a performance of Starman on with Top of the Pops on BBC.
That's right.
People saw that were like, oh my goodness. And then all of a sudden it was like, they said, like pandemonium. He would go to the States. It was crazy. So much to the point where he was like, he thought he was Ziggy Stardust, and he was starting to get to him, and he had to say no more.
That's
a year after releasing Ziggy Stardust, that's it. Like, not doing this anymore. We're on to the next.
And do you know what the next record was? It was called Aladdin Sane. Like Aladdin. Okay. Sane.
Right.
But if you say that word or if you say that phrase very quickly, it sounds like Aladdin Insane.
Aladdin Sane. Ah, wow. Yeah. Crazy.
And that's where his head was at that time. He developed a new character that was a little bit off the rails.
Where did he come from, man? Like, just completely. Space. Right. Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah. What am I thinking? Of course. Well, hey, good episode.
Starman.
It Ain't Easy follows up Starman. I do love this song. I do love It Ain't Easy. Because I love the chorus. It comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum. Like, you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, so cool the way that this song takes you.
Yeah. So I thought you were going to hate this song. That's funny, because I was listening to it today and I thought he's going to really fucking hate this song.
It feels a little theatrical.
Yeah.
It does feel a little theatrical. We'll get to the song that I don't like soon. Okay. But it definitely feels like more of like a musical tune, this one, because it's kind of like this, like, I don't know, just the way that it's composed and the way that they all goes together. It feels more like a musical song, but like when you get to that chorus, it's like so worth it. Yeah. Love this song. Love this song.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the end of side 1, I think.
Okay.
So is that right? Side 2 starts with Lady Stardust, I believe. So this is a song originally. It was about Mark Bolan, which is kind of weird, right? From T-Rex, if you've heard of him. Mark
so I know
Bolan,
of T-Rex. Get it on, bang a gong.
Yeah, really a massive, proponent of the glam rock movement. Like, at the forefront, he was at the vanguard. And Bowie they were almost like friendly competitors, those two. But this song was called, when it was a demo, A Song for Mark, I think.
Okay.
And then it somehow changed to Lady Stardust. But it's about Mark Bolan.
Interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, obviously, like, Bowie is a androgynous, right? I mean, it's like very much everybody being free, doing what they want to do. I mean, he came out as gay. Is he actually gay?
No.
Or did he just say he was at the time?
He said that. That was all. He did that just to kind of play with the media.
But again, yeah. So again, like very much again like that sort of telling the story of a man dressing as a woman and being obviously a lady, and it's really, again, just like an interesting story to take you through, man. Like it's just the way he puts it, and then puts it together with the music, because it's all, again, chorus wise, and it's all right. Like, it's just everything about like the way this guy puts the music together. It's so much to look forward to. Like, I look forward to this, like when these songs come on, because like it's very uplifting, just the way that he sings. Like, again, even when we think about Starman and Somewhere Over, like, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, like totally. The reason why that takes you, like, you get so, I think, emotional about even Somewhere Over the Rainbow, is because you don't expect it to go high, right? You just, like, it just kind of comes out of nowhere. So just everything that he did around, putting just pieces of these songs together is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's amazing craftsmanship in terms of songwriting. It really is.
Star comes after Lady Stardust. Yeah.
So that song, ironically, you're talking about Starman making Bowie like super famous after his Top of the Pops performance. Star is reflective of his disappointment in himself for not being a bigger star, ironically.
Interesting, because the way that I kind of went into this and was like looking into it and researching it as well, and is trying to like tie it all back to sort of the Ziggy Stardust character. So like, to me it was like, how could he change things by being a rock and roll star, something like that, right? And so no, I because I don't know anything leading up to this about him, or what he was going through or felt, but
this is such a cool thing for me to experience, because I went through what you're going through now probably 30 years ago, and I was so taken by this record. The first time I saw this record, I did not hear it. A girlfriend of mine had it, and I looked at she was babysitting, and I went over to visit her at this house, and I didn't listen to it. She wasn't listening to it, but she had the vinyl, she had the record. And I looked at the cover of it, and I thought, what is this? It's so weird. Wow. This guy standing, and he's got this weird suit on. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think I would like that.
Interesting. So, oh my God, your girlfriend was like, check out Ziggy Stardust. Like, I don't know, like what my girlfriend at the time would have been like, did you check out the new NSYNC album? Like Ziggy Stardust, like that was the album that she was like.
Yeah, she brought it to the house, like, because she wanted to listen to it while she was babysitting.
That's awesome. I like Amy, but I don't know what happened to this girl. I don't know how you let this girl get away. Hang On to Yourself.
So, such an interesting hybrid of glam and punk for me.
Yeah. This is I'm not a big fan of this tune.
Really, huh?
Yeah.
Do you hear the Ramones in it? Like before the Ramones were the Ramones. Do you know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah. Well, this, and obviously we'll get to Suffragette City, but obviously we're like very, like ahead of like the punk time, right? In the style and the type of music that it was. So it's actually really interesting how they came to putting something like this together at the time and on a record like this.
There's a very cool line in the song that goes, like tigers on Vaseline. And that's just classic Bowie, imagery, right? Because you instantly think like, what would a tiger be like walking on Vaseline? Like a big, powerful tiger, but he's kind of sliding around, and maybe it's a bit sensual. Like it's kind of like there's this, it's mind blowing for me, David Bowie.
Yeah, well, again, like it just flowing through, man. Like, and from that onto like into Ziggy Stardust, and like this whole, like this was the song that I heard and knew from this album,
Yeah.
But I only ever really knew that guitar line. It wasn't anything beyond.
Which guitar line?
Well, like the opening of like.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like that to me is what I knew of Ziggy Stardust, and like that was kind of it. Right. But I didn't really get into it because I wasn't big on it. But then, again, you kind of go through the album and you get to this song and you kind of have this like understanding of like, oh, this is kind of like, this is a story about him. But like now he's starting to fall apart, right? It's like now he's sort of like become this big thing, and his Spiders from Mars are sort of these guys that are, just his band, and are they trying to start to turn on him, that kind of thing. And, it's just kind of, again, I guess it's sort of almost, not that I know what it's like to be a rock and roll star, but like, I guess like this could happen if you're in a band, and as a, the main singer starts feeling all of like, feeling it, then, anybody can play around him.
Well, this is cool too, because there's so many winks in this song. So many references. And we're talking about Ziggy Stardust now. He played it left hand, Jimi Hendrix.
Yes.
Right. The Naz is Nazarene, so God, a reference to Christ. There's so many, like, it's just so full of imagery and cool things that stimulate your mind and make you kind of think and go, wow. It's not just like the She Loves You nonsense where it's like filler.
Right.
There's stimulating lyrics that you kind of, your mind races a little bit. Like, why did he say it that way, or what is he talking about?
Like exactly it, right? Like you kind of start thinking, and you want to start knowing, you want to start understanding what he's singing about. Like I feel like when it comes to music, and a lot of bands, and it's like open to interpretation. Sure, any song could be open to interpretation, but there's something about these songs where you're like, what is he singing about?
Yes.
Who is he singing? Like, what is he saying? Like,
right.
There's got to be something here. Like, he can't just be singing like, oh, I'm a left-handed player, or oh, I'm a big, strong, powerful, I could walk on Vaseline. Like, no. What is he trying to get at?
He's referencing things,
right?
Yeah.
Like that's what you're trying to understand through this whole thing.
But it gets more interesting as you go, because that left hand thing is Jimi Hendrix, and there's a reference to voodoo, which is Voodoo Child. So there's a reference to Iggy Pop. There's a reference to Lou Reed. And that if you know anything about David Bowie, that he idolized those two, and he hung out with those two eventually. When he kind of came into prominence, they all started to hang out together. Like Snow White Tan is Iggy Pop. So like there's all kinds of like really cool references when you start to kind of, and it's like it's almost like an archaeological study, right? You're digging and digging and digging and finding like cooler stuff, and it's like, holy shit, this too,
right?
Wow,
yeah,
right? It's like this fucking discovery. It's fascinating to me.
So after Ziggy Stardust, we get into a song where I actually like. I like the song, but I don't understand how it fits on an album like this. Like everything about it.
Suffragette City.
Yeah.
I always thought that the sequencing, I think about you and I talking about sequencing, and I think the sequencing, the only complaint I have about this record is the sequencing is a bit wrong for me. Ziggy Stardust should have been like either the second or the third song on the record. Suffragette City could have opened the record. Like these songs are buried almost at the bottom of the album, and two of the better songs, in my opinion. It was weird that this is like the 9th song or the second last song on the album, because I think it's pretty good. Do you not like it?
No, I do like it. I do like it. I don't understand how it fits on the album. Like, again, when you're talking about Ziggy Stardust, when you're talking about sort of the story, when you talk about sort of everything around it, like this feels like one of those songs that Ken Scott would be like, this has nothing to do with, the rest of this concept album, but it just feels. But I do like it. There's like great keys that I never heard before without wearing headphones that come in later on. It's like, like it's just like, it's really cool. I do like the song. I just had like, what does Suffragette City have to do with everything else on this record?
Yeah, I agree with you there. It is a bit odd. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is one of those songs maybe that just kind of, it was written and everybody liked it, and they just put it on the record, because it doesn't even really fit where it is, because apparently, 5 years kind of starts the record and it's like, okay, here's the problem, like, and then the solution is the last song, Rock and Roll Suicide. It's a proper end, but Suffragette City doesn't really seem to sequentially fit,
Yeah.
where it is, or let alone on the record. Yeah,
it doesn't. And like this idea of Suffragette City is in reference to England, right, or to Manchester, or something like that, in terms of it being like the main place for like what the suffragette movement, like the women's movement in the country.
Right.
Yeah. I don't. So yeah.
That's
why I'm like,
no, it's out of place. You're right.
Yeah,
great song.
So
I've always liked it.
Good song.
Yeah,
it is. But it doesn't really make any sense to be being on there. Rock and Roll Suicide is. It's like the minute I heard it, I was like, I got to go learn how to play this song. Like, how has nobody ever played Rock and Roll Suicide around the campfire before? Like, how has nobody ever like, what's going on here?
Yeah. But it's very dramatic, I think, right? It's not a Wheat Kings type song. It's not a campfire ditty.
Sure.
It's pretty elaborate.
It's definitely not. It's not a Wheat Kings. No.
Sing that last part around the campfire and see what happens.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You might find yourself in the campfire itself.
I don't know. It just seemed really cool the way it started out, and like, yeah, again, I guess this whole idea of how it's supposed to end with this song, and Ziggy succumbed to the, being this rock and roll superstar or something, and the vices and everything around it, and being self-indulging and just only into himself, and that's kind of what destroys him in the end, right?
Interesting that this happened more or less to Elvis, 5 years later. Died in 1977. Yeah. Very much
crazy.
Kind of under the same, types of circumstances, right? Greatest rock and roll star up until that point. People called David Bowie the new Elvis.
Oh, no way. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I don't know. Do you have anything else to say about that song?
No, I like it though. I like it. It's a great ending to it. It's a great ending to the album. Sends it off. It's a thank you. It's like the end of the act. It's the end of the play, whatever. Right. So I think it's a really good final song.
Now there are songs that were left off this record. Two come to mind. Velvet Goldmine is one of them. And the other one is called Sweet Head. Now, those two songs were left off because RCA, preferred that they were not included on the record because they're very sexually oriented.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, the funny thing is, when I got this record in the 90s, both those songs were included as outtakes on the CD, like on the actual, it was a Ryko disc reissue. And there were those and like two other cuts, can't remember what they were. But Sweet Head was like my favorite song on the whole record, which is really funny. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is just like, if you can, find it. Because it's you'll love it. It's fantastic. And Velvet Goldmine's good too. It's kind of like a kind of barroom kind of piano type thing. But two really good songs that were unreleased. Let's see if you can find them. Definitely find them.
Wild.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, if you can find them, listen to them.
Yeah, I'll go check them out. I'll go check them out. See how musically they make me feel.
Well, I am thrilled that you listened to this album and got so much out of it. And like, this is kind of, like I said, it's like a crazy revelation. Like you made my day. I was not expecting this at all. So I have a proposal for you then, based on how this is, kind of unfolded here. I didn't think you were going to like this record.
Okay.
So I would like, because I'm a massive Bowie fan. Like,
interesting.
I'm a huge David Bowie fan. This is not my favorite David Bowie record.
Oh boy.
My favorite David Bowie record came out right before this one, Hunky Dory. So I would like to propose that you listen to Hunky Dory next.
Interesting. If we go backwards, you want to do that?
Yeah, for next wish. I wouldn't normally do that. When I originally suggested this, I thought, like, it's, Ziggy Stardust is a great record. I thought it would be good for you to listen to. I wasn't sure if you'd like it or not. Didn't think you would. The more I listened to it, but now that based on what you've told me, I really want you to hear Hunky Dory, because it's kind of like half greedy, half like, I'm really interested in what you're going to hear in this record.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
You cool with that?
Let's do it. Let's go one album backwards. Hunky Dory, 1971 release. This was a big time for music. Again, we've said this a couple times, but 71 was a huge year for music, and I think it was a huge year for Bowie. Was it not? So yeah.
Hunky Dory didn't do well. It certainly didn't make him a star. There are two big songs on that record, though, Changes and Oh You Pretty Things. Okay. But still, nobody really cared about it. Ziggy was his turnaround point. But this is a fantastic record. You're going to dig it, I think. Yeah, if you like Ziggy, you're really going to like this. And I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about this.
All right, man. Well, let's do it. Let's get into a little bit more Bowie.
All right. Awesome. Toast. Oh, look at that.
Toast. It's a toast.
Cheers.
It's a new one. Cheers.
Pour me some. Pour some in this glass.
Hey. Oh, God, I'm terrified that it was actually going to pour.
Just pour it in my mouth.
Rock and roll, man. Ziggy Stardust, great album, fantastic album.
Yes, sir.
We'll be back next week with Hunky Dory. Cheers, dude.
Cheers.